Welcome back to Dad's Kitchen, where I'm going to show you today how I make Venezuelan arepas. Okay, so one of the things about arepas is there's a huge controversy because although Venezuelans, they're well known in Venezuela, Colombians claim that they have made them. They are made with this wonderful corn flour. It's pre-cooked corn flour. I believe you can only get it at the Roski's, and I think it's because it's gluten-free and it's also kosher. It's wonderful. You can only use that. You cannot use any other flour for arepas. And in Venezuela, they have lots of fillings, and one of my favorite ones is with carne mechada, which is basically, it's like a stewed meat. It's very stringy stewed meat. That's what we're going to do today. The first thing we need to do is cut some vegetables. A green pepper with these wonderful knives by Bra at Cookchans, and some garlic. Okay, so these are the vegetables that we will add these to the meat. Now this is a sort of meat. I knew what I wanted, but you can very easily ask at the Roski, at the butchers. You can ask the butcher, I want meat that you can shred. And they will give you something like this. I've already got it prepared. It's like a skirt, okay? And we don't need to do much to it. Just cut it into a couple of chunks like this, and that is it, okay? So basically now we need to fry this, and then we need to actually cook it until it shreds, until it's so soft that we can shred it in a pressure cooker, and that's about half an hour. The first thing we're going to do is actually fry it off. So we're going to start browning the meat because the element of browning it's going to give it a wonderful flavor. So some olive oil, we'll let that heat up a bit, and the meat will go in. Okay, and that's already starting to cook, so we let that brown. Okay, so we're going to turn it over now. You can hear that that's wonderful, and the color. I just wish you could smell it. Okay, so once that's ready, I just put the vegetables in. And although this is not traditionally a Venezuelan thing, I mean, I've only found it at the Roski, and it's a kosher onion mix, and it's absolutely wonderful. I've used it even as a cup of soup. I love the flavor. I'm going to add 2 spoonfuls of this. That's 3. And an important part of the Venezuelan cuisine, they actually even cook lasagna using soy sauce because they have a huge Chinese population. So it gives it a wonderful flavor. And also it's quite salty. Some salt, some pepper. And then we need to add some water. We close it up and we let it cook for about half an hour. We close it, and I'm going to give it 35 minutes because it will take a while for the whole steam to be created, and then that'll be ready. In about 30 minutes more or less, the meat will be ready to actually shred it. So now we're going to make what is the arepa, and there are lots of ways of making it. Each person in Venezuela will have their own way. They will either add the water first or the flour first. I like to measure out the flour, although most households probably wouldn't. And I like to measure it because I like to know what sort of quantity. Now that amount, which is a cup, makes 2. And that is more or less what you might have for breakfast. So because I'm going to make them, usually these are for breakfast and also for dinner, not for lunch. So I want to get 6, so I'm going to use 3 full cups. Now they need to be moist, and you need to add the same amount of water plus, because if they're not moist enough they will crack. So again, that's 1, 2, 3, and you can probably see it's very liquidy and you're thinking that's not going to work. but the flour will soak up, and you need to leave it for about 10 minutes. The flour will soak up all that. So you start mixing it. Now, if you find that it needs more water, you add more water. If you find it needs more flour, you add more flour. You can start to see now that it's starting to form a paste. So that's already formed some sort of a paste. You can feel it. It will need a little bit more water. And now with your fingers, you need to feel for any lumps. And now we want to leave that for about 5 minutes because, as I said, the flour will continue soaking up some of that water. So we let it rest for 5 minutes. And after 35 minutes, we're now going to release, let's turn it off. And we'll release the steam, let it cool a bit, and then we can actually shred it. Okay, so that's the steam released. Just take it out. It's beautifully cooked. We're not going to shred it just yet because it's quite hot, and we need to do that 2 forks. But we'll leave it to cool. That's it. And we can now continue with the arepas. Okay, so we're ready to cook the arepas, and basically we do not fry them, but we do need a little bit of oil, although this hot plate by Bra is incredible. So you need the oil there and you spread it out. In Venezuela they use something called a budare, and it's an iron, it's like an iron plate. So that's on, and we're going to leave it at medium-ish heat. So you need to wet your hands a little bit to make sure that they're damp and it doesn't stick. Get a bowl about that size. In Venezuela they would say they've got some wonderful words for these things, and they would call this bolear. So you would make some sort of a roundish shape that looks like a mushroom head, like a little spaceship like that, and then you would start to press it, make it round. Make sure your hands are wet, because if they are not, and especially if the dough didn't have the right amount of water, then you're not going to get a perfect circle, and it'll start cracking. Now if it does crack, and sometimes it does, and especially because we've got the lights on, all you've got to do is literally just tap it. So this is what you end up with, and you will put it there. Now you need to leave it without touching it for about 4 minutes, because if you move it, the crust will break. So we carry on making some more. Wet your hands. Okay, so that's about 4 or 5 minutes now. We're going to turn it over to see, and you can see it just comes off. And you need to make sure it's beautifully done. You need to make sure that you don't use anything that's abrasive on this Bra hot plate, and this Bra spatula is wonderful. You can see the beautiful color. Some people like it a bit darker, and they like to burn it a bit more. I like it like that. And now you leave it for another about 4 minutes, more or less. Okay, so now the beef has cooled down, and all we do is just to shred it like this until it's all into tiny pieces. It's beautifully cooked. And of course you could add other sauces if you wanted to, or some sort of a gravy if you felt that you didn't just like it like this, or even maybe some more of the sauce if you add a little bit of flour and thicken it a bit. Okay, so here they are. You know they're cooked when you tap it like that and it sounds hollow. Now sometimes they burn, they're quite hot. I've let them cool a bit. Now all you need to do is to get the knife in there and literally just cut in, literally to open as if it were a little pocket. And that's the last one. 3, looks nice. I'm leaving one because it'll be wonderful to have with a little bit of cheese. In Venezuela they have it of something called queso amarillo. I have no idea what that is, but it's a really good breakfast staple. And I hope you've liked the way that I cook Venezuelan arepas.